Hey, it's Deborah Atkinson. What if I told you that the difference between getting great results from your fitness and being frustrated with your results this year or any year is really all about getting more sleep? Be surprised or not. You're either in one of two camps. Number one, you're totally aware of the fact that sleep is super important, but you're struggling to get it. Or number two, you're not really prioritizing your sleep, meaning you're not really going to bed at the time that would be most helpful for you to get the most quality sleep. I'm Deborah Atkinson. I'm going to answer 3 questions for you today. And yes, I'm using a cheat sheet because I don't want to forget any one of these points. But 3 questions that I'm going to talk about. 1, what happens during sleep that actually boosts your ability to get fit and that specifically matters more to you when you're in midlife, right in menopause, perimenopause or postmenopause, and then beyond, till death do us part. What is it about sleep that is so crucial for you and I? Number 2 is how sleep influences your exercise. And then number 3, how exercise influences your sleep. Because through exercise, we can actually help you get better sleep. But through sleep, we can help you get better exercise. You see how that works? So we need to figure out where you are. So let's dive in. And first of all, if this is a helpful topic, you want to see more, tell me below what are meaningful topics to you. What's your biggest pain point right now? What can't you solve that you've got questions about? Or even if it's infobesity, you've got so many voices saying so many things. What do you want to get to the bottom line on what the science is and what the proven program strategies are? Just list that below and then subscribe so you don't miss one. Okay, so let's dive into that first one first. So literally, I teased with sleep, and if that were the only thing that you changed, what if you could get better results just doing that? And we'll deal with the how too in a little bit, all right? So in a study done in about 2013, it was right when I was writing, You Still Got It, Girl. And about 2013, a study took postmenopausal women and divided them into 2 groups. And both groups went through the same weight loss program. So they were doing the same things, basically eating the same food and quantity and expending the same amount of energy, doing the same amount of exercise. So roughly they were very comparable. Now, they took one group and said, okay, these are the long sleepers, and we're going to have them sleep 9.5 hours. Now, you know what that means, that, you go into a room, it's cold, dark, and quiet, you can't do anything else for 9.5 hours. We don't know that they did, but they had the opportunity and the environment to do that. Then the other group, they called them the short sleepers, got 6.5 hours of sleep. No more than that. At the end of the study, the program was successful. Both groups lost weight. However, the long sleepers lost more weight, and more of the weight they lost was fat, meaning they maintained lean muscle. So let me backtrack on that a little bit. Whenever you and I lose weight at any point in our lives, we lose a portion of fat and a portion of muscle. And usually we can, if we are doing the right things, we can overcome that muscle loss by lifting weights, eating more protein, stopping doing endurance training exercise, doing more high intensity kinds of exercise. That'll help offset that muscle. But we can lose the weight we lose can be up to between 15 to 50, 15250. That's a drastic difference of muscle. Now here's the problem. If you and I, after midlife specifically, lose muscle, it's a lot harder for us to get it back than if we were 25 or 30 and that happened. So are you putting the pieces together? Maybe, with a roller coaster dieting and weight loss and over exercise, and you were losing muscle all the time. So catch that. Over exercise causes muscle wasting. The more you exercise, it is not the more muscle you get. In the sweet spot of exercise, not too much and not too little, that Goldilocks of exercise, gives you the most opportunity to hold on to lean muscle mass you have now. So if you're 50 something and you want to be 60 something and still hold on to that lean muscle mass, you've got to be doing the right things. We can't have the latitude we had when we were younger, because we start losing muscle, everybody, men, women, start losing muscle at about 25, easier than we hold on to it or gain it. So if we haven't been lifting weights and we didn't know how to lift weights, we have got to put down those pink dumbbells, then there's a chance you've already lost some. But hey, doesn't matter when you start, even in your 90s, there's proof that you can get strength back. So there's something to consider. There's always the silver lining. All right. So now you've heard the story about the study. Let's go back into what is it that happens during sleep that boosts your ability to get more fit, say to get more benefit from the strength training and the exercise that you're doing. Well, it's 3 hormones. So no surprise if you're in midlife going through menopause, you've got hormone changes going on. Even if you might be doing HRT, these you still have to sleep to optimize. And that is cortisol, testosterone, and something called growth hormone. So growth hormone or human growth hormone, that's something that actually bodybuilders and figure competitors look at taking. Young men sometimes wonder, should I be taking that? And here's the thing, not necessarily, but what you should be doing is exercising correctly, eating the right amount of protein, and getting your sleep. Stop that long endurance training as well, and that'll help you significantly. But we create or produce testosterone and growth hormone in our deepest cycles of sleep. So if you're tossing and turning, can't get to sleep at 2 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling instead of snoring or quietly sleeping, you're missing out on those 2 hormones that help you maintain and rebuild and repair your lean muscle mass. So we need to get you some sleep. And the other one I said was cortisol. Isn't it always in the picture? For sure. So if you have even just one night of sleep deprivation, meaning you don't go to bed on time and you have to get up way too early, or you go to bed but you just can't sleep, you're tossing and turning and you're waking up and your monkey mind keeps playing when you wake up, I get it. That day after, even one day of sleep deprivation, means that your cortisol levels are imbalanced all day. They're up when they should be down, they're down when they should be up, and that makes you more hungry, makes you more cranky. And we're going to get to one next piece right now. So that's it. Sleep is important, crucially important, and more so at midlife and later in life, because we're already generating fewer of those hormones and our cortisol can already wreak more havoc than it did when we were 20 or 30 and even 40. Okay. Next up, how does sleep influence your exercise? So it's that sleep deprivation I was just talking about. Here's the way it works in our body. If we're sleep deprived, we operate almost like we were drunk, at the very least like we're under the influence, meaning our balance, coordination, agility, and reaction skills. Meaning if somebody throws something at you, you catch your toe on a curb or a step, you missed it, you're probably going down. You're more likely to have those feelings like you're not coordinated, like you can't quite adjust or respond to movement. So you need to be extremely careful with your exercise plan. That means always have a plan. You know me, I'm going to tell you to have an exercise plan all the time. And many of us are focusing on improving our reaction skills, improving our balance so that we don't fall later. But the day after, the morning after a poor night's sleep, should you exercise? Yes, because it'll keep you on track and get a better night's sleep the following night. However, should you do all of that agility work that you were planning to do? No. Should go to your plan B. Maybe go for a walk, maybe not even on the treadmill, because that's not as safe as walking outside and controlling your ground underneath you and your pace. So think about how you can minimize your risk, but do get exercise. All right, and so that's one piece of sleep influencing your exercise. Your coordination, agility, reaction skills are down, so be careful. Then, on the other hand, sleep influences your ability to recover. So if you are exercising really hard and you're not getting the rewards, I mentioned earlier, those 3 hormones, those will wreak havoc on your body's ability to take the muscles that you've stressed when you've exercised, and that's a part of it. All exercise adds stress to the body. That's how we become more resilient. 2020 was a lot of weightlifting, all right? So we should be much stronger and more resilient. But when you're talking about lifting heavier weights than you normally would lift, it makes you stronger so that your daily activities of living a breeze. That's really what it's all about, right? So sleep can help you recover and repair your muscles after strenuous exercise. And if you don't get it, because those hormones aren't there, you don't recover as well, and you're still kind of breaking down more than you're rebuilding and repairing. And that can be damaging, right? If you keep going after those same hard workouts or trying, you're probably going to sooner or later end up injured. And there is a higher proportion of women in midlife, or a higher proportion of injuries that occur in midlife than do at other times of a female's life. Okay, last but not least, that is it. So it's not just the postmenopause and because you're getting older, it actually has something to do with hormones, but those injuries are much more significant or prominent. So that doesn't mean you're going to get it. It means if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating enough protein, it means if you're not getting enough rest between exercise sessions, days is what I mean, then you're probably more likely to become injured. Doesn't mean you will, just means take a hint from that, take that rest and recovery. It's not always about another day of exercise. Sometimes it's about another day of rest actually makes you more fit. Okay, so we've covered 2. What happens during sleep that boosts your ability to get fat? How sleep influences your exercise. Let's talk about the last one. How does exercise enhance your sleep? So you may have heard me say this before, but in a self-reported study, a survey put out by the National Sleep Foundation, even 10 minutes of exercise, self-directed, nobody's going to tell you how fast, how far, how hard you have to go. You just choose 10 minutes of exercise. 10 minutes a day increases your quality of sleep rating by about 33%. That's a pretty good ROI. That means go for a walk around the block. I've got a 13-year-old dog. I could take him, that qualifies, and boom, sleep is going to be better. And that can have a lot to do with a lot of things. If you're exercising outside, getting some exposure to sunlight, that could also help you produce more melatonin at night, help you relax and just release. So most likely, but nobody said this in the study, but I'm going to add this tip, unplugged. Don't take your phone. Don't talk on the telephone. Just go be with your own thoughts, decompress. If you can do it in green space, so much the better. But if it has to be on your treadmill because it's 20 below or 112, so be it. But get that movement in. All right. And the last thing for you specifically, and you know I was going to save a juicy tip to the last, right? It's this. For women in menopause, perimenopause in their early 40s to postmenopause, which is all the way to the end, avoid high intensity exercise late in the day. And here's why. And I know some of you might be thinking, but that's the only time I can exercise. It's the only time I can work out. And I got to get that high intensity interval. Stop. Okay. So sometimes doing low intensity interval training or low intensity exercise late in the day. And here's the mantra. It's one of the top 10 tenets of flipping 50. That's a tongue twister. And that is do interval early, light, late. Just play on that alliteration, interval early and light, late, or say intense early and light, late. And here's the reason why. We use cortisol, that's stress hormone, yes, but it's also the energy hormone. Most of us, whether you start a little early and you get going right away, or you start a little slower in the morning, but ultimately earlier in the day, probably the first half of your day, you feel more energetic than you do later in the day. It's the best time for you to do all the creative work, the time for you to do editing, the time for you to do the most important thoughtful work and reconcile your bank statements. All of that stuff has to happen early on and you do it better then. And That is due to the focus and the energy that cortisol gives you. Exercising at the time when cortisol is already higher is much better ultimately for what happens later in the day, because you get a corresponding drop in cortisol, which means that you'll be sleeping because that energy won't be surging through you, and you won't have that cortisol giving you the focus and the concentration and the want to use it. You will be high when you should be high energy, and you'll be low when you should be low if you exercise at the right time of day. Now, you may come home from work and say, I can work out hard at the end of the day. And you may say, Deborah, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm fine doing that. But here's where you might not be fine. And look closely at this. If you're exercising late in the day really hard and you're not sleeping really well, here's the thing. That what your body has the ability to do is to turn other hormones into cortisol so that you get that energy, because the energy to exercise is going to come from that. So if you're out, the bank account on cortisol for the day is down. You're done late in the afternoon, but you need to exercise. Your body will take a hormone called pregnenolone and convert it to cortisol. So boom, you've got exercise. That's all fine. You finish the workout, you may say, see, told you so. But 4 or 5 hours later, when you're ready to go to sleep, pregnenolone is one of those hormones that helps you relax and chill out and get a better night's sleep. And you, my friend, have written checks from that account and you have nothing left. So if you are not getting a good quality night's sleep, you may think you sleep and you go to bed. But if you're waking up in the morning and you really feel like, I still don't feel rested, take a good look. If your exercise at high intensity levels late in the day, if you can shift that to earlier in the day. And I know time can be a factor, but here's the way I get around this for a lot of my clients and students in our programs at Flipping 50, and that is this. I suggest you optimize those days off, those weekend days, get those high intensity workouts in, whether that's weight training or that's interval training, and then all you have to do is one other interval training in the morning, one other day of the week. You need 2 interval trainings, that's it, and 2 strength trainings. And you could get by doing strength training later in the day if you had to. It doesn't rev your system up quite as much as high intensity interval training does, where you're getting breathless. So keep those 2 things in mind as ways to overcome. Now, if you're saying, okay, I'm in, I need to sleep, I know I need to sleep, I want to sleep, I would love to sleep. Here's the thing. There are about 20, probably about 2 dozen little tricks and tips that you can do. And if you're somebody who's saying, I've done it all, my respectful response to that is you may have tried it all, but not tried it sequentially in a specific order. To know that one thing didn't work, that I started it, I progressed it, I stuck with it, and it still really didn't work. So I would suggest you go back to the list, look at the biggest needle movers first, and then try them again one at a time, just like a 7th grade experiment. Change one variable at a time so that you know which one worked and which one didn't. And you may find that it's several things that you end up doing. You start one, you get a little help, you do a different one along with it, you get even better help. And that's generally the way I walk our clients and our students through it. And a lot of that information is in here in the sleep chapter, but you can get a really quick download specific to sleep. It's called Sleep Yourself Skinny, and I'll put the link to that down below in the discussion. You can grab it right now. Just enter your best email and Sleep Yourself Skinny will come right to your inbox. And that list will walk you through, how do I get started? How do I set up a sleep routine so you can collect your own positive sleep habits? So there you have it. A lot of surprising things on that list include having carbohydrates in the evening more than in the early part of your day to help you relax, unwind, produce serotonin, which is your feel-good hormone. And if you feel good, you're going to sleep good. There you have it. So that's the answer to why sleep is so crucial to your fitness, to your New Year plan, or your any time of year plan. If that was helpful, please let me know. And add your comment down below if there's another topic that you'd love some support with. And Happy New Year. If you want to go all the way in, right now, if you're watching this early in January, our Flipping 50 membership is open. We only open twice a year, and it's now, but it closes soon. So I'll put the link to that down below too. I'll see you on the flip side.